Welcome to the Big Announcement Coming Soon podcast. I'm your co-host, Michael Bowl. Joining me today are the other two hosts, Nick all the way out in Thailand and Jeff in Sun River, Oregon. I'm actually hanging out in Bend, Oregon myself. Good to see you, gentlemen.
Good morning, guys. Or good evening, Nick.
Good to see you guys.
Okay,
Good
we should
evening.
We've
say
got
GM,
some
GM for the
news.
culture.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, GM for the culture. We have some news followed by our articles. We're going to start off with the news right away. Jeff, you are in charge of news today. Bitcoin down to 20,000 and a little bit of money after that.
Mm-hmm.
What is going on with the market?
Went down. Inflation numbers came out a little bit higher. Of course, that's what I think. Everyone's going to have a
come in
lot of
higher. It
reasons.
just didn't come in lower.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
Lower.
it didn't come in lower
Yeah.
than expected.
Right.
And I'll get to a little bit of that when I get to my article today. So yeah, had a big drop. Well, $1,000 in a minute. I don't know. It depends how long you've been around. I was like, oh, cool. But I've been doing this a little while. So along with Bitcoin going back to 20K, ETH not continuing to rise, we have the ETH merge coming soon. And something I think about, I remember watching the BCH BSV split where
Okay, we have no idea what that means.
So with Bitcoin, there's been a lot of forks where people take the chain and fork it off and run their own nodes. It's not Bitcoin, it's something else. Bitcoin Cash came along. There's a long history of controversy there around that. But eventually, Bitcoin Cash decided to split between Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV. And you could watch the blocks coming up. There were people tracking it. And then there was like shadow mining where they were mining but not producing blocks publicly. And then eventually they ended up splitting instead of, because for a little while it was competition. The e-split's not going to be that at all. But the idea of sitting around watching, I think it was little red blocks on a screen or whatever we're going to watch for the ETH merge of block countdown. And then we all see if the next, if block one of the consensus of the merge works. And then does block two get consensus and block three reach consensus? I mean, and there's that great meme of, and there's the merge and you get back to staring at the charts. But I think it's just an interesting thing to be around for. And if you are new to crypto, I think digging into especially the first Bitcoin Cash fork is an important thing.
So when you talk about a fork, it's a group of people within, let's say, the Bitcoin ecosystem, specifically Bitcoin, that said, hey, we're going to fork or just go a different direction.
Yeah, they can copy the code.
We're going to call it Bitcoin Cash. Yeah.
Yeah, run their own node.
And well, get people behind it, then
Bitcoin. Yeah.
Right. And then if you get people behind it, then you're off and running. And if you get people to buy into that, literally, then you might have some legitimacy or some currency.
And what became Bitcoin Cash almost eclipsed Bitcoin for a while. And I think it's interesting to see a lot of the people who were on different sides of the argument come back to what I can, real Bitcoin and update their views as it was a real tech thing.
Right.
Yeah. The other.
Go
ahead, Mike.
With ETH, you got the whole switch going now. If I remember correctly, that's going from proof of work to proof of stake.
Yes.
Which in theory should have a little bit less environmental consequences to it.
Yeah. I guess in theory, ETH mining very different than Bitcoin mining. Most of it's done in the Amazon cloud. And nodes are run up there. So the nodes will still be run there. But yeah, it's the switch to proof of stake. It's not sharding, or I guess they're onto dank shards now. But let me say it this way. There's a lot of things I think people think the ETH merge is. It's not a speed up. It's not making it cheaper. It's not more transactions. It's only the change in consensus. Blocks stay the same. Fees stay the same. Now, emissions, how much ETH is produced, each block will change. But I think a lot of people might be overestimating how much is changing right now. Eventually, these other changes come along. I think we're technically at like 1.5, 2 yet.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I believe a common misconception for a while was that it was going to reduce gas fees, and that's a myth, right? Gas fees are going to remain the same.
And gas fees in a bear market are nothing. So
right. So
and the other thing I wanted to touch on,
quite
really
outrageous
quick,
at one point, but yeah.
Is the
before I interrupt you, what do you want to talk about?
Hodl and Craig Wright are in court today, so people are live tweeting that. Hodlnaut called Craig Wright a fraud. Craig Wright has to do with Bitcoin SV, and I think it's an interesting, again, piece of culture. We're going to talk a lot about culture today. this whole court case and the support for Hodlnaut, I think is another. I think that's if you haven't been in crypto for a couple of years and you don't know what the Hodlnaut and Craig Wright case is, it's
I
worth
don't. Yeah. What is that? I
um
should look that up.
yeah, I think it's worth looking up. It's a lot longer. It's a couple full hours of podcast, and there are podcasts on it. But yeah, hit Twitter today and check out a little bit of background on that. It's good for the culture. So yeah, that's
Okay.
my little news what I think is important today.
Okay, so we'll see what we talk about next week. So far, it just seems it's been for quite a while that whatever the S&P 500 does, Bitcoin seems to just track right along with it.
Yep.
So an exciting news today is, and you may have heard this, Starbucks to offer NFT-based loyalty program using Polygon's blockchain. So we heard so much about these sorts of things when the market was hot, when it was pushing 70,000 for Bitcoin, and then it was always the latest, greatest, and in some ways it made Bitcoin seem legitimate or more legitimate. I was surprised to see Starbucks do it this late in the game. Any idea what they're thinking?
I think it's the difference or the time between announcement and actually getting it running. Right? They announced stuff. I want to say 2-3 years ago. Like I
Uh-huh.
remember buying Matic before it was Polygon based on announcements
Mm.
like this back a couple years ago. And I think it's the idea of the announcement comes in the bull market, then they start building, and the bear market comes.
Well, it says here Starbucks so hinted at it back in May. So that was their initial. Specifically
Oh, that's
Starbucks
only
hinted at
that
developing
recent.
a Web3
I
experience
might
in
be
May.
thinking of
Yeah,
other
would announce
stuff.
plans to launch this NFT, providing, as they say, unique experiences, community building, and customer engagement. So yeah, they're late to the game either by choice or just by legacy. I don't know. What do you think, Nick?
Well, I think like to Jeff's point earlier, like it legitimizes Polygon because they have been making these announcements and when they were Matic, right? And
Uh-huh.
there was always rumors about Walmart with VeChain and Polygon, the rebrand didn't really help, for a while there, but I think you're starting to see that it's not just a layer two, or a solution for ETH pre-merge. It's actually a standalone coin, and it's got legs now, especially if other people see value in it. I do wonder about the timing though, but I would say that that's kind of common if you're looking at like Web 2 with a Web 3 partnership. It seems like the
Uh-huh.
Web 2 legacy system tends to move a lot slower. There's a lot more middleman, and I don't know. I don't want to say bureaucracy, but there's just the legacy system is slow to adopt things. So yeah, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they are trying to just kind of put it out there now because there's not a lot of good news. So it's easier to cut through the noise in a bear market, in terms of announcements. But
That's
as
true.
we see,
That's
it's
true.
not moving the price.
For
So,
me,
Fortunately,
when these
I had
legacy
one
companies
question.
actually start doing well, let me finish here.
Yeah.
These legacy companies actually start buying or becoming part of this, that adds or it becomes a buying opportunity itself for Bitcoin. If you're getting the old guys in finally, you got the bell curve towards the end of the bell curve is starting to adopt, then perhaps this will go more mainstream. We can sell, enjoy the rise, and get the heck out. Jeff, what were you gonna say?
I was going to say, I think on one hand, what you just said is exactly right. Um, it gets eyes on things, it's being used, and it's not maybe as controversial as NFTs have been with gaming. My questions from reading through were this is like the rewards program, like airline miles. They're just throwing it on the blockchain. Can you buy and trade the NFTs? Or do you earn them? Do you buy them from Starbucks? And once you have them, can you trade them?
I
Or
doubt it.
are we just doing a rewards program on a blockchain?
That's probably what it would be to start with, and then at some point they could go from there. But
Hmm.
it seemed within their business model, it's just a way for crypto bros, which we'll talk about later, to say, look at me.
Mm.
Hmm.
I have the NFT for Starbucks.
Yeah, I
Why
always
don't
find
we
these
move on
things.
to
Oh, I'm always waiting for the when they become tradable, earnable. Like, what's the purpose of making it an NFT and not just a closed database of their loyalty program? What's the NFT
right?
add-on?
What's the difference? Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
All right, let's move on to recency bias. Recency bias and how it impacts us. So if we think of recency bias as the immediate future is likely to be the same as the events have just occurred. So our last week's podcast was excellent. And so recency bias tells us this week's podcast is going to be as excellent or better. Recency bias actually told me that it would be raining in the background for Nick, but it isn't raining in there today. So I guess recency bias isn't always correct. Now, Jeff, this is your article. I see recency bias for sure. It just must be built into us in human behavior. If the lion comes at 5 a.m. to eat us, it's probably going to be there tomorrow at 5 a.m. to eat us. So tell us about these lions.
I love that you took it back to something a little more um
Non-recent.
yeah, because this is
I have a biological explanation for everything, basically.
well, I mean, it is because the market is a biological organism, all of us playing against each other, right? It's not its own thing. It is us scared of the lions, except we're just throwing numbers at screens. But
Right.
Scared of the
everything
whales.
I found in crypto with trading is there's not, there's some TA and sometimes it works. There's some hype in the tech and sometimes it works. It's all about how Twitter feels and how people feel. And that's for trading. Now, I think when reading this, the article really goes into that recency bias of whatever just happened is probably going to happen again, and you forget what happened a while ago.
Right.
Now,
Right. We must be programmed that way. So in theory, if we could fight that, we could all become rich.
right, you adapt to change. You want to see what's the new, except it doesn't always change. And yesterday Bitcoin dropped 1,000, and people on Sunday were so hyped at 22K and calling to go up.
Right.
Well, what was to me, that was the recency bias. We're up, we keep going up, versus if you take a step back and we're in part of a downward trend of a 4-year cycle. If you buy into the 4-year cycle ideas, we're macro. I know some people want to separate the two, but macro things are going down. So the recency bias, I think, is also that tunnel vision of narrowing into this happened yesterday, therefore it'll happen again, and you forget where you are. It's kind of the zoom out from the 1 second chart to the 1 year chart.
Well, Nick, what do you think? Do you find yourself like when Bitcoin hits 22? Do you find that emotional thing of like, wow, I'm going to get on now? It's that feel of, oh, it must be a good time to buy now. Let me tell all my friends.
I mean, there's definitely the human psychology part where you feel the FOMO, right? And I think that's what maybe Jeff's talking about in terms
Fear
of
of
how it's
missing
run
out.
by the sentiment of Twitter, the sentiment of people's feelings. Yeah, I don't really feel it so much in Bitcoin just because
You're immune to it. Good for you.
no. I would say probably more like no.
I mean, when you get into your Lambo every day and say, I sold at the right time.
Yeah, that's it, right? No, and on that note, I'm going to segue gracefully to Doge. I think that's why, because I would see like the Dogecoin like go up, and then there was like charts and there's recency bias there because everybody buys at 15 sats and then it goes all the way up to 240 sats and then it goes down to 15 sats, right? So like people play patterns and they hope for it, and sometimes it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, but there's definitely like there's a lot of recency bias there, right? Because that helps the confirmation bias, and there's a lot of that's mixed in with the crypto bros and just the discords or just the cults or coin community, anyways, right?
And on that, the one of the reasons I brought it up, like you said, the cults, the crypto bros, a lot of people invest, right? You throw money into your 401k, you invest in the stock market. We like to say we're investing in crypto, but how many people are trading and telling themselves they're investing? And if you take that short-term view and you accidentally become a trader when you're not really an investor anymore and you lose that long-term view, and I think that's where a lot of people
So
end up
what's the
losing
difference between an investor and a trader in your view? Are you saying the investor? I heard you say long-term view.
And I think there's definitely a huge gray area here. Like I could kind of dabble in both, but I bought on Sunday because we were going up and I was like, well, 22K, but my general rule, we're below 25 and we're below 20K. The difference for me is I'm investing where today I didn't sell that Bitcoin at a loss. I'll just buy some more, and I'm happy to wait till 40K and 60K and 80 to start unloading. So my time frame is 6 months, 2 years, 3 years,
or 20, but yeah.
Versus I flipped some Luna C this week just based on the hype, and I got in and out, and that was a trade.
But that's a swing trade concept, right? You're trying to you're trading you're manipulating the emotions of the market.
What I wonder is how many people, myself, I FOMO'd a little on Sunday, but this is part of my FOMO bag, and I'm not selling it today. How many people bought at 22 and sold today, and were an investor at 22 and a trader at 20? Whereas I'm still an investor and I'll hold that Bitcoin for another 2 or 3 years or 200 years.
Right.
And I think a lot
Well,
of people get that short-term recency bias, and then they start to think they know what they're doing. They start trading, and you become a trader when you started as an investor. And at the very end of the article, they talk about doing reflections. Are you reflecting on your short term
right.
and weighing that against everything that's happening so you can build a long term view? And that to me points out a lot of the work that if you're going to trade, um, it's hard. There's a lot of work that goes into it. That's not just knowing when to buy and sell. And I don't think most people are willing to do the work. I'm not, so I don't trade very much.
Yeah, and also I think there's a lot of pain and mistakes you have to make to become a trader. I actually don't, it seems to me the
Yeah.
market has its own decision. You can't really predict it anyways. That's always been my view. So don't bother. Just buy and hold on when it gets high enough. You made some profits, get rid of it. But that
And
doesn't seem to be the culture. Like Jeff, you and I went to the meetup, and granted, there's only a few people there, so it's a small sample size. But a lot of it was like, "This is new. We're going to get in," and it seems more like these guys aren't Bitcoin traders or holders; they're Bitcoin gamblers.
yeah,
Maybe
I think
unknowingly.
a lot of new
They want a
people,
quick return. Yeah.
and actually that sentence right there takes us into, I think, the Crypto Bros article when you talk about they're just gamblers, because I'm
Right.
talking about investors or traders. But do you want to take us to that article? That was a fun one.
Yeah, it says the title is "I would never date a crypto guy again!" Exclamation point. What women say about dating in crypto. For example, in this article, we don't have to go through all of them. 3 women share how greed, gluttony, and pride have turned them off on dating crypto bros. Now, there's a good chance a lot of listeners here are bros. There's way too many dudes in this ecosphere of crypto land. But specifically here, you want to hear what the Urban Dictionary says of crypto bros?
I love their definition. It's so good.
Yeah, I think it's good. A person with a weak grasp on cryptocurrency applications, yet has strong formed opinions on the best ones, is known to have committed at least a few of the biblical 7 deadly sins of pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. So it's a bunch of lazy dudes just trying to make money.
It's perfect.
If you listen to
You've been
all
in
my
a
show,
shitcoin telegram.
it's dudes. And men aren't. Like there's a saying that they say when a woman and a man walk into a room, the woman thinks is smarter than she thinks she is, and the man is dumber than he thinks he is, and they're both right.
Yeah, I've heard that one. That's a good one.
Yeah. So you have a bunch of crypto bros. We're all dumber than we think we are trading. So what's that say for us? Should we? I guess you could then look for the opportunities in that.
Yes, somebody's got to be exit liquidity. It might as well be the crypto bro douches who have a weak grasp on the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, the other problem is I see two sides of this, especially in shitcoin telegrams of the brand new to crypto. How do I turn $100 into $1 million? Or
Right.
I made a lot of fast money really quick. I have access to things I never had before, and I didn't mature and earn
like a Lambo. Right.
Lambo, but then like the flouting of money, and if money changes people, and money in 2 weeks really changes people.
Right. I mean, Nick, when he got his Lambo, I think he's done really well.
Personally, by the time it arrived, I had
the same.
Give it back. Yeah.
Oh, and the margin call came in at that point.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's too bad. So yeah, those are. You guys consider yourselves crypto bros? I think I'm too old to be a crypto bro.
Yeah, I don't. It doesn't fit in the culture, and really, it applies to that subsection. The article talks about, there's the same guys on Wall Street, and I think it's just a little bit of these people exist through crypto. You have Twitter and the other things where you get access, like you can be seen, so you're just being a douche at your home. And then if you get money, if you make a few lucky or good trades, now you run around flashing that money. And I think we're amplifying a few people who are already there.
Okay.
Yeah, they become influencers.
Remember the SNL rich dick
you're not an influencer yet?
No.
Not, we've got more than 3 followers on Twitter.
Not without a Lambo.
Oh, the truth is starting to come out.
No, but I think there are layers to these things, right? And I feel weird even thinking about what I identify as, because this is, I got in at in 2017, right? But I bought the top of 2017, right? And it was my first 2 years of crypto was like a bear market, and I don't think a lot of people that I know of or that I still follow are like crypto bros, but I do think that I probably was one in 2017, right? And then you kind of go through, take your hits, or take your lumps, and if you make it through the bear, you stick around long enough, then you learn from it. And next cycle, you're probably a little bit humbler, and you don't get a Lambo, you get like a Volkswagen or something else, something sensible, and you take profit, and you're not necessarily just maybe you really are in it for the tech at that point. But I'm saying, like, I think there are the newbies all come into that because they come in with the fast money idea, the TikTok, like the salacious articles that are out there, and sure, it looks enticing.
Dude, I came in 2018 in August, so all it did was Bitcoin went 7K to 3. All I did was, I mean, my portfolio had more Bitcoin and ETH every week, but less dollar value every week for like a year and a half, and then it went up. So yeah, I think you're right. If you get in when it's pumping and you get that infusion of the cash and energy, and instead I just got bled for a year and a half. So by the time it went up, I was dead inside. And I was just like, okay, cool, it went up. It's worth a lot now.
But there are people who. Oh, go ahead.
I was actually going to say to Nick, I came in last year at about 35, so I'm in the bear market. So Nick, you actually are our expert here. You have been in the longest at 2017. You're pushing 5 years now.
December 2017. Okay. That's very.
You didn't have to mention
because that was like the top. The top.
I see.
It was literally buying the top.
We need an episode to go back and talk to you and interview. There's some other people who did the 2017 run. I think it's taught me a lot, is talking to people who did it. I missed it.
Emotions of it all.
But think about that. If your only experience in your short amount of time of crypto was a perma bull market during a pandemic when you're getting free money delivered to you and you're not allowed to leave the house, like, of course you're going to attract, a whole different group of people. And maybe, the crypto bros are just part of the culture, amplifying it, of course.
Nick, do you want to talk about Feels Good Man, Pepe, copyright, and NFTs? You may be people are listening may be familiar with Pepe the Frog. I actually didn't know the name of the frog, but now that I've seen this green frog face, I'm familiar. But tell us a little bit about Pepe.
Yeah, sure. So we're gonna do a little meme archaeology, and I know it kind of sounds silly, but like we're gonna.
That's a very anti-crypto bro statement, by the way. But go ahead.
I know. And they all unsubscribed right away.
Both.
Wait, the one subscriber we had?
Oh no, that's my other account.
I didn't sign up for this. But anyways, we're gonna go over and like trace a social trend, a very unique social trend that is continually evolving. But yeah, Pepe the Frog, and like I'm still learning, I must admit, but it's fascinating. So I've been learning a lot recently. The origins of Pepe was in 2005, and it was created by cartoon artist Matt Fury. And to me, it reminded me of one of those like Adult Swim cartoons, Jeff, like remember in Cartoon Network, you guys might remember, like because it was written for like post-college kids, and it was kind of like a slacker, kind of like what to do, like almost existential process in life before you go and become an adult. Like it was written like that, but with 4 characters. The only character that people really know about is Pepe, and it just became a meme. Like it became a person that the character, like a certain group of like people identified as because of Pepe's role within the cartoon. And then around 2008, it got adopted to 4chan, which I don't think there's crypto bros on there, but there's a whole different subset of the culture there.
Yeah, it's its own culture.
Yeah. Quite famous for their memes and just their ability to get things viral and create little movements. So Pepe became like a thing on there, and it also caught on with bodybuilders of all people, like because of the phrase "feels good, man." So it became like a hashtag, right? So you're seeing like the birth of a meme and the birth of like a hashtag well before its time, and I thought that was pretty fascinating. But really, what the article touches on is how the creator Matt really didn't anticipate this, right? He started just drawing things and uploading his comic strips onto MySpace. And so in a way, like that was his
that shows how old he is. Yeah.
Right. And he, sent it off and it was picked up and it was digital art. So they call it like the Mickey Mouse of the internet. And it's been a part of everything from, the right-wing alt kind of misrepresentation that actually got Pepe put on the what is it? The Anti-Defamation League.
Yeah. They said ADL in the article as if we all know what that means. I thought that
Right,
was something
right.
else, but yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's wild. It's just wild to see that like an artist's work can get away from you, and it shows you like for better or worse, like internet culture is shaping the world. And
But you
there's a
said
lot
get
of
away from you.
cool.
He's suing. He's trying to control. Like that's a lot of the issue with it, right?
Well, I think really like I I walk you back to like the first major thing. Like I think the catalyst to all this was when it started to turn really like they kind of weaponized Pepe to go against like normal people. It was like basically mass adoption was happening, right? And he
Mhm.
was cool with it. The artist was cool with it the whole time. There's a great documentary about this as well called Feels Good Man, and they interview him and his roommate, and they even said like his friends warned him, maybe you should probably put a lid on this, and you do have a copyright. And he didn't feel comfortable suing other artists until they kind of misrepresented it and started turning it into like hate symbols and stuff. And he actually didn't do it because of like the reasons why like copywriting or anything. He just didn't want them to make money off of it in a bad way, right? So he went after Alex Jones and Infowars first, and then they settled out of court, and then he ended up going, and that was recent in 2019, I believe. And also around that time, he went after someone who used it to write a children's book, like which actually had like Islamic phobic undertones. It was really, really
Ah, I
like
got you.
really bad, really, really radical, and that got kicked off Amazon, and he won that as well. But no, he's as they kind of make mention, like it you can't it doesn't really come back to you anymore. It's not really yours, and there's been so many different references, whether it's just like a modification or a remix or a homage, but it's kind of like he could sue everybody, but it's showing you that like the internet, you can't really stop the internet, right? You can
Yeah.
censor it, you can put a
Right,
lid on it for a bit.
because he's going after alt-right kind of sorry, people who use it in a way he doesn't like. Most that's
Yeah, he
alt-right.
doesn't agree
He's
with.
I
not
think it's a
going
value system,
after
yeah.
like I remember seeing it early as an alt-right thing. That's when I first was introduced to Pepe. And then
Same.
again in the last year or so, Dark Farms, which I know I own some NFTs, Nick does, but he draws Pepe as this little frog who, comes out and taps the mic and says GM and drinks coffee. And the whole thing's super cute.
Yeah, that's how I was introduced to him, was on Twitter, the cute aspect of it. I didn't realize he had this
Mm.
rich history.
Oh, you missed
Yeah,
the art.
massive
Okay.
history.
Yeah. And
And
but I'm saying it's like the selective, he's protecting the image of it, but not protecting ownership of it. With the
Ah,
lawsuits, is
right,
that is
right,
that
right.
kind of the right
yeah,
idea?
yeah, I'd say that. Yeah, it's not completely fair use, but I think he's definitely making sure. I mean, and there are campaigns. He's making sure that the image is restored, right? There are campaigns going on now. Even Jeff shared a tweet with me today. Digital artists, modern digital artists, they all look up to Matt Fury. There's so many remixes of his work, right? That
Mm-hmm.
he has endorsed, right? There's 1,700 rare Pepes on like a little weird rare Pepe exchange. I don't want to say it's weird. I love it. It's great, but
I want to
it's
ask
just
you
a
about that.
unique corner of the internet that remains. But I think going back to that is that like it's definitely like an image thing. He's certainly like not anticipating like finally stopping it, but another silver lining is like it got so popular that it ended up like becoming a symbol of peace for the Hong Kong uh China,
Yeah,
protest.
all the protests on it, yeah.
So it just
That was
shows you like
interesting.
there's like where's the connection to that? How did that happen? It just
So,
these things just
are you
blow
saying
up,
there's
right?
crypto bros hanging out in the Hong Kong freedom movement?
They must have saw a Lambo or something.
But if anybody who is curious about the book, the kids' book, it's called The Adventures of Pepe and Pete. In it, Pepe
Wait,
and
hold
his
on, are you
best friend,
promoting
a
the Islamophobic
centipede.
book?
No, I was reading what it's about. His best friend bring
What?
law and order to a Washington or Wishington farm by posing a bearded alligator named Alka, because there we go.
Yeah, right.
So
For
subtle.
those of us who have lived
Because
or grown
because
up,
the
as Jeff has, in Muslim countries, that's a little offensive.
there's thick
A little
symbolism
bit.
there too. Yeah.
And doesn't Jeff have a beard?
A little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it basically this thing became the ultimate meme, and it became a symbol of all things. It was like the ultimate the shit poster thing or troll. It also became a symbol of hope on the other side of the world. So, um, Yeah,
Now,
he said it. Whatever he does, it's a lifelong battle
how
for
much is
artists,
it
and he'll always
also
be
a
known.
symbol of like being an OG Bitcoiner? Because it's on XCP, and even I was super late to XCP. I have one
Wait, what's that?
NFT on there. Exactly. I'd only used it just recently. Nick showed me about it, and I've
The
been a Bitcoiner for a long
counterparty
time.
counterparty chain. Yeah. Well, yeah. So that also is mentioned in the article, and in the documentary, like that rare Pepes were minted on Bitcoin, right? Back before.
Well, on Bitcoin or XCP?
Well, both, right? Like so Bitcoin and then XCP, and then they were also even so they're also kind of being purchased for what they called Pepe Cash as well. So Counterparty Chain was just able to be a blockchain that was peer to peer that you could then get your money. But there was a Pepe Cash as well.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Bitcoin, yeah, Bitcoin. It's still around. Like I didn't. There's an exchange for it. I didn't check it. Can look at it.
But it's an exchange
Um,
for that only. That's like the whole
like
XCP
Pepe
seems like
Cash
a
for a
very
dollar.
different
Yeah.
ecosystem, separated off from like the ETH NFT, Solana NFT ecosystems, where people in those ecosystems don't ever mention or even know about XCP.
Well, that's correct. It's this one almost predates that, right? So I don't really know how its origin is, how connected it is with Pepe. I don't know which one was first, but it's certainly a massive part of it, right? And yeah, XCP, but yeah, Bitcoin and Pepe Cash were all three things that I didn't know you were able to purchase, these NFTs with. And Matt Fiore has his own NFTs out, his own Pepes. They're a bit pricey, but there's like I said before, there's 17,000 different just
Wow.
rare Pepe cards. Not to mention
When we
like
say
that's just
cards, these
one
are cards that look
collection.
like Pokemon cards, and for
Mm,
anybody who hasn't seen these, that are drawn by different artists.
yeah,
Gotcha. Well,
yeah.
gentlemen, we're kind of running towards the end of our time here, so we don't want to the show run too long. But just to sum it up, we've talked about Starbucks, recency bias, dating crypto bros, and finally got a little nerdy talking about Pepe. Nick, well, how can people find you on the web?
Oh yeah, sure. They can go to Nicholas K. Garvin. That's my Twitter handle.
All right. And Jeff?
NFJeff underscore, because somebody else took NFJeff, and all this will be down in the show notes. Links to the articles we're talking about. Please go read them for a coherent overview of what we're talking about, and then our Twitter handles if you want to see more from us. And Mike, where can we
All
find
right.
you?
I'm at Autism Podcast. So, Nick, Jeff, it was wonderful talking with you guys today, and we'll see you again next week.
All right, thanks guys.
Cheers, guys.